Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Weekend Update. From very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Saturday, the weekend before Christmas 2024. Did you ever think that we would get this far? I mean, really? There had to be some point this summer where you thought this whole thing is going to come crashing down around our ears. That we would be left in perpetuity having to listen to this.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
And this.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
And this.
And to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
Ah, yeah, that was a good one. And this one?
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do.
Yeah, that one's a classic. But my point is, there had to be some point during the last year where you, at least for a moment, thought about the possibility of Kamala Harris being the president of the United States for the next 4 or maybe even the next 8 years. Absolutely, truly terrifying. But we made it through it, my friends. Here we are at Christmas 2024, and Trump is about to be the president again. How could we be so lucky to live in a country as incredible as this one is? How could each and every one of us be so fortunate to be born in a place like this, or be able to move here and become a citizen of this amazing country? And think about it, really soon, we get to go back to listening to things like this.
Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
Oh, my friends, I have missed him. And now we've got him for the next 4 years. What could possibly be better than that? I honestly can't think of anything. An incredible Christmas present for all of us. And to think about this, we're the ones that did it. Too big to rig. And if I was thinking about it at the time, I would have taken a whole bunch of screenshots of the faces of all of the liberal mainstream media. They all looked like somebody had just taken away their puppy. Well, somebody did take away their puppet. I guess that's close enough. Most of us are probably not going to miss Karine Jean-Pierre. She is, after all, by far the absolute worst press secretary this country has ever had. But I, for one, am going to miss, I'm just going to miss it a little bit, the insane, illogical lunacy that comes out of her mouth. Like this. This was yesterday. Check it out.
Dealing with the issue as the administration's also fighting to keep up, to remove razor wire along the border that is intended to keep, this surge lowered, to keep people out from crossing illegally.
Governor Abbott's razor wire does not prevent. It does not prevent non-citizens from unlawfully crossing. That's not what it does. If anything, it puts at risk, it puts the lives of the Border Patrol at risk. It puts them in danger. That's what the razor wire does. And that's what the Governor Abbott is doing. Again,
So the razor wire that's put up along the border, the same type of thing that's used to put up all around prisons to keep people in, that doesn't keep illegal aliens out. What it really does is puts Border Patrol agents in danger. Right. You gotta admit, part of you is going to miss this craziness. So anyway, from the very beginning, this Christmas, we all have a ton of stuff to be thankful for. We are blessed beyond measure, my friends. Before we get into the Christmas turkey of today's program, let me just give you a couple of program notes. On Monday, I'm going to play the Cowboy State Politics Christmas Special. It's a great show. We recorded it yesterday. It's a conversation between me, Mark Jennings, and our pal Charlie Cole. We talked about, or are going to talk about it, whichever way you want to look at it, all of the really cool Christian relics that have come to light recently. Talk about what they are and what they mean going forward. There's also a really cool discussion about what socialist countries tried to do to Christmas. And I guess that gives us another reason to be thankful. And then on Christmas Eve, Tuesday, the traditional cowboy state politics Christmas story. I have a great one lined up for you. You're absolutely going to love it. So Monday, the Cowboy State Politics Christmas special, and then Tuesday, Christmas Eve, the traditional Cowboy State Politics Christmas story. You don't want to miss either of those two shows. And while I'm thinking about it, that's actually a really good reason why you should subscribe and follow the program. That way you can be notified every single time there's a brand new episode of Cowboy State Politics. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. Oh, and before I forget, one other cool part about the Christmas story, I almost always record it with the 1948 version of the silver microphone. It's an old electro voice microphone, and the truth is, it sounds so good that you're probably not going to know the difference. It's just a cool thing that I do every year just to kind of get me in the spirit. So, lots of stuff coming up on the program. You don't want to miss any of it. Okay, on with the program. At Christmas, we celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So it seems only appropriate that we talk about the birth of other people, and by extension, how important and how incredibly precious every single human life is. I was over in Buffalo the other day, getting our Christmas plans in order and all, and I bumped into an old friend of mine, and she told me how she's about to have another grandbaby, and it's probably going to be born on Christmas Day. Or around Christmas Day. I mean, even though we have all this amazing medical technology, we never really truly know when these little critters decide to make their grand entrance into the world. I made some crack about people who were born on Christmas Day really getting screwed in the whole birthday and Christmas present department. My friend chuckled, and she just said that she's grandma, and she's going to make sure that that kid will absolutely get his birthday present and his Christmas present. We kind of laughed, and I said goodbye and came back to Sheridan. On the way home, I was recounting the conversation in my head and came to the realization that what an amazing Christmas gift that kid's parents are going to get this year. A brand new baby on Christmas. How incredible that is. But it's not just that kid. It's not just my friend's grandchild that's going to be born this Christmas. It's all children. What an amazing gift they all are. But there are some, even in our own state, that treat life so cavalierly that they would disregard my friend's Christmas gift or the gift of a child during any other time of the year as an inconvenience. That somehow you have better things to do than to raise a child. How astonishingly inhuman. There's a piece in the Jackson Hole News and Guide, an opinion piece, well, a letter to the editor, that I just can't let go unanswered. It was just a couple of weeks ago that radical leftist activist judge Melissa Owens in Teton County struck down Wyoming's abortion bans. The reason why I say radical leftist activist is that Melissa Owens proved herself to be a judge that thinks that she can legislate from the bench, that she can engage in judicial activism and make up law out of whole cloth. Really, her decision on the abortion bans shouldn't come as any great surprise to any of us. For over 2 years, Melissa Owens has been presumably agonizing over the ridiculous question of whether or not abortion is the same as health care. Really, we should call abortion what it is. To put it in its most simple terms, it is the practice of brutally killing a baby. The reason why we use the word abortion is that it is clinical. It allows us to talk about a horrific subject without throwing up in our mouths. And trust me, nobody wants to do that. We'll continue with the program in just a second. But first, an absolutely outrageous profit timeout. If you've been negligent in your Christmas shopping, might I suggest something useful, something warm, something that your loved one will absolutely adore you for. a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the warmest socks that I have ever put on my feet, and I guarantee whomever you give them to is absolutely going to love them. To get you a pair, you can go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. You definitely won't be disappointed, and whomever you give them to won't be either. Some gifts that you give aren't really all that useful right now. But once winter breaks and this snow stops flying, they become absolutely essential, like the roof on your camper. While you're having fun with your family in your camper during the summer months, you definitely don't want to get soaked while you're sleeping. One amazing gift for your family would be to have the roof on your camper resealed by Tim and Tammy Young at Young's Camper Repair. They'll guarantee it for 10 years, and you won't get a better price anywhere else. Give Tim and Tammy Young a call at 307-431-8110. 431-8110. Trust me, your family will thank you for it. Now, if you hadn't picked up on it yet, this entire Profit Timeout really is a public service announcement helping you out with your Christmas shopping. If you've run out of ideas and you can't figure out what else to get your outdoor enthusiast, you should just get him some ammunition. And lots of it. The best place to get it is the Wyoming Cartridge Company. They're a Wyoming-based ammunition manufacturer right here in Sheridan, Wyoming. Nobody else has the quality control that they do, and it's made right here in Wyoming. What could be better? Go to their website, wyocc.com. What could be better than ammunition? Or, if your guy's not into shooting, first of all, what's wrong with him? But if he's not, maybe you should consider some gold or silver from Freedom Gold USA. They're different than a lot of the big-name gold companies that you hear advertised on talk radio. They don't believe in ripping off their customers. A lot of these gold outfits charge ridiculous fees, from 30%, sometimes all the way up to 70% of the value of the precious metal. They do that so that they can pay for all of these big-name endorsements. Freedom Gold USA doesn't do that. They provide you a quality product at a reasonable price. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/David to fill out their short questionnaire to receive a free consultation, as well as to be entered into a drawing for $250 worth of free silver. That's freedomgoldusa.com/David. And now, back to the program. When I think of the word abort, what comes to mind is that we're going up in the space shuttle and something goes wrong. And there's this big red button that says abort on it. And we have to hit it or we're all going to blow up. Abortion is a clinical term that lets us remove the humanity out of the unconscionable act that we're about to commit. It's no different than referring to genocide as ethnic cleansing. It's a euphemism to make it sound less horrible than it actually is. So from this point forward, we'll not use the euphemistic term that allows Melissa Owens to cast off responsibility for the 386% increase in the killing of babies since she issued her first injunction. On this program, we'll not absolve her of her complicity in the deaths of hundreds of children by the use of language. Nope, the direct result of her orders from the bench is killing babies, and that's what we're going to call it. And I suppose, before I get to the piece in the Jackson Hole News and Guide, we probably need a definition. If you look in any biology textbook, there are 3 conditions that have to be met before we can classify something as life. That it has to have response to stimuli, that it has to convert energy into food, and that you have to have cell division. All of those things happen right at the moment of conception. And so, a little baby inside the womb is most definitely a life. And secondly, and I'll admit this is possibly the world's longest definition, but there isn't a single person walking the face of the earth, or not walking yet, that was at any time a member of a different species. At no point was anyone on earth a fish that turned into a human, or a giraffe, or any other species. If you're a human, you are always a human from the moment that you were conceived. And thus, a little baby inside the womb is most definitely a human life. Without a doubt, without any question, it is a human life. Now, you can philosophize all you want. You can question the meaning of life, but none of that changes biological reality. To the Jackson Hole News and Guide. Now, I have no idea who Jerry Maria Johnson is, but I would love to have her on the program so we could debate the killing of babies. It wouldn't be much of a debate, but nonetheless, Jerry, you're welcome on the program anytime. She begins her so-called editorial by saying the following, and I quote, "The Supreme Court was correct to toss this issue onto the states. As you know, anything not specifically addressed in the Constitution becomes their province. The reasons, perhaps the only ones, why reproduction is absent in the Bill of Rights is because women weren't permitted to govern and were completely ignored." End quote. No, Ms. Johnson, the reason why that's not in the Bill of Rights is no one at the time of the Constitution would have considered abortion anything else other than murder. The Constitution says what it says, and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. And nowhere in there is there a right to killing a baby. Now, I'm sure the author of this ridiculous op-ed would claim that there's some right to kill a baby buried deep within the 14th Amendment. But it's not there, as the Supreme Court has rightly decided. You can try to divine anything you want out of the Constitution, but nothing is going to change the words that are written on those pages, or not written on those pages, as the case may be. The second thing that Ms. Johnson tries to claim is that the Wyoming Constitution guarantees the right to kill a baby. And of course, she points to Article 1, Section 38 of the Wyoming Constitution, that each person has the right to make his or her own health care decisions. And the second implicit claim that she's making is that, of course, killing babies is health care, which is absurd on face. It's already in Wyoming statute that if you kill a pregnant mother, you're charged with 2 crimes, not 1. And both of those crimes are, according to Wyoming statute, and by any definition that you want to use, murder. If there was a terrible situation of a drunk driver running into a pregnant mother, I'm sure Ms. Johnson would be one of the first people to claim that that person needs to be charged with 2 crimes, and not 1. But herein lies the ridiculous dichotomy that Ms. Johnson is trying to draw, that it is not a crime to kill a baby inside the womb, but it absolutely is a crime if it's a drunk driver that does it. Since when do we make decisions on the charging of crimes based on geography? We don't. And as our good representative in Congress would say,
first of all, it's a red herring. It's stupid as all get out.
And I just love this next part of Ms. Johnson's op-ed, and I quote, "Based upon beliefs we'll never agree on, or even know exactly when life begins, I hold that personhood should begin with the first breath outside the womb. Until then, preborns remain part of the mother's body, her and her doctor's concern." End quote. Preborns. Whoa. Talk about trying to take the humanity out of some horrible act by using language. Well, unfortunately for Ms. Johnson, words mean things, and so do definitions.
2 plus 2 is 4, not 5 if you want it to be 5. And this is not to be discriminatory. This is to stand up for language. Words mean things.
At one point, even Ms. Johnson was a little baby inside the womb. She can believe anything that she wants, but that doesn't make it so. She could believe that the sky is some curious shade of neon green, but that doesn't mean that it is, or that it ever will be. And secondly, we need to dispense with this whole canard that an unborn baby is somehow still part of its mother. Now, I get it. An unborn baby is dependent upon its mother for food and nourishment. But the same thing is true after the baby is born. Now, barring any of our synthetic baby formulas, if that newborn baby is not fed by its mother, it will wither and die. Interestingly enough, and apparently unknown to Ms. Johnson, that's also a crime. It fits somewhere in between child neglect, child abuse, and child murder. It's fascinating that we have so many statutes related to harming a child while they're outside of the womb, but apparently harming a child inside the womb is a completely different matter. Or at least it is to Ms. Johnson. Last, there's the question of whether or not a person can actually be pro-choice when it comes to killing a baby. It's beyond clear that an unborn baby is, in fact, a human life. Regardless of what Ms. Johnson believes, if you don't have a choice in any other circumstance, then that choice doesn't exist because of a person's geography. And the truth is, you do have a choice. You have a choice of whether or not to hop in the sack. Once you've made that decision, whatever follows is not your choice. It is someone else's choice, another unique and precious individual human being. A gift. A gift that probably 1 million or more Americans would love to have. And the truth is, after you've made the first choice, you actually do have a couple of others. You could keep the child, or you can give it up for adoption. But a choice that you don't have, and one that doesn't exist anywhere else, is to kill another innocent human being. Judge Melissa Owens was absolutely wrong in her decision. It's activism by the court, and it is absolutely outside of her power. A judge in Teton County doesn't get to decide what is life and what is not. But her actions have certainly caused the deaths of a lot of people. Well, that'll do it for today's installment of Weekend Update. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday for the Cowboy State Politics Christmas Special. Make sure that you get all your Christmas shopping done and that you're all ready for Christmas Day. Speaking of which, I've got a couple of things to take care of myself. So, for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.